Welcome to Career Tools. This is Sarah.
And I'm Mark.
Today's podcast, How Not to Multitask, Part 1 of 1.
As always, our content has been crafted by humans, me, and we are now certified by the Proudly Human Corporation, and we're really proud of that association. The questions this cast answers are, how do I give up multitasking without dying? How do I learn to concentrate? Not easy, but it can be done in bits and pieces. And what do I do when I get distracted? Because you are going to get distracted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are. If you want answers to these questions and more, keep listening. The fastest way to improve your career is to understand how others experience you. Empty Disk provides a framework for understanding communication styles and improving workplace effectiveness. Purchase your assessment now at manager-tools.com/MTDisk. That's manager-tools.com/MTDISC. Today we are re-recording one of those classic Career Tools podcasts about multitasking. And it's been, years and years and years, 20 years now.
14 since we recorded this. Hall of Fame from 2012.
Yeah. And from even before that, we've been talking about how multitasking is a lie. And folks, if you've been listening for any length of time, you'll realize that we don't mince our words and we completely mean it. Multitasking is a lie. It is impossible for humans. It's not even really possible for computers. And folks, in the early days, computers just switched between tasks so quickly, it seemed as if they were multitasking.
Yes.
Now, nowadays, computers go a step further than humans. They have multiple brains. They have multiple chips. So it can be argued, I suppose, that they are multitasking. But unfortunately, you, friend, only have one chip. You've got one brain. So this argument about computers can do it, so can I, doesn't really work. It doesn't hold water.
Yeah. And look, there are all kinds of things you can do at the same time. You can walk and chew gum. The old joke is you can rub your belly and pat your head at the same time, although it's surprisingly hard to do that if you're not pretty coordinated. But those things don't take any concentration. And if we do those two things, we can't do anything else because doing those two things simultaneously takes up our whole brain, our single chip brain. It's a great brain. We love it, but it's a single chip brain, right? There's a really great video, which, by the way, Sarah, I have been sending out to people about looking for things and if you're not looking, you don't see, right? I was working with a chief executive. If you see your job as finding problems, guess what you'll see all around you? Problems. And you won't see good stuff. The good stuff will literally happen. So this video, you can see it on YouTube.
Dancing bear? Is that what you?
Dancing bear.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the one. And it's actually an ad for cycling safety in Britain. And it basically proves how if you're thinking about one thing, you can't do another thing. And in it, you're asked to look at these, there's 10 or 12 people on screen in a little warehouse, and half of them have on white t-shirts and white shorts, and the other half on black t-shirts and black shorts. Two teams, each with a ball. There's a white team and a black team with one ball for each team. And they ask you to count the number of passes the team in white makes. And so all of a sudden, the video starts, and these guys are passing the ball around, and you're watching that ball, you're watching that ball, you're watching that ball. And I think the right number is 13 or 19. I can't remember, right? And then at the end, it goes dark. How many passes did the team make? And you make your guess or whatever. And then they tell you the number. And then it says, but did you see the moonwalking bear?
Mm-hmm.
And they rewind real fast, zip, like that. And they play it again. And now that you're looking for the bear, this bear comes walking through the entire thing. And the first time I did it, I was boggled. And of course, the cycling bit of it is, if you're not looking for a cyclist, you're looking for cars, you won't see the bear or the cyclist. And that's because you can't multitask. You told your brain what to do. Your brain is really good at one thing at a time because it doesn't multitask. So if you're counting basketball passes, you cannot see the other things that are happening. And it's just so different. The bear stands out so much when you're asked to look for it. You just feel like, a dork.
So much so that they rewind that video, Mark, and they replay that video. But even then, you want to go back to watch the first video that you watched because you think they're tricking you. You're like, oh yeah, they just threw that bear in there on the second view. Like it's a trick. It's not.
Yeah, it's not. I never did that. I just assumed they were being honest. But now you're telling me people go back and they assume that the rewind is fake?
Yep. Because it's so
impossible.
You had no idea. You can't believe. Now, anybody that's never seen it before and is watching it for the first time because they've heard us talk about it or they saw the link in our show notes today, you'll see the bear on the first try because now we've already
really okay
because we've already let you know the bear is there, right? That's the pivotal piece of it, right? Is this you don't know it's there, so you don't look for it. But now we've obviously given that away, and people know it's there, so there's that. But folks, now we get asked a lot of the time, and whether that's our conferences or in emails, is there not a difference between groups of people, whether that's gender or ethnic group or culture is a big one as well.
Oh, yeah. Male or female. And I hear this from women a lot. Oh, women are better multitaskers. No. Young people are better at multitaskers. You old people, you 65-year-olds, Mark, your brain has slowed. It's atrophied. It's sclerotic. And so, no, there's no, they've tested this on every age group. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, total burn. Oh, I'm computer savvy. So I do what my computer does and I multitask.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or it doesn't matter, or technically barely literate, it doesn't matter. No one can multitask. It's not in our physiology. The differences between humans, despite what is out there in the social zeitgeist and the political zeitgeist about pointing out everybody's differences, the fact is, I think we differ by about 0.1% between any group, no matter what. So we're a lot more same than we are different.
Mm-hmm. And yet, even though we've been talking already here for 5 minutes about the fact that you cannot multitask, it is human, it is innate. There are still some people listening to this podcast right now who are thinking, oh yeah, but not me though, because I could definitely multitask. So we're going to ask you to please try today's guidance as an experiment, if nothing else. Just try the techniques we're going to talk about for a week and see if your output, your concentration, your focus improves. If it doesn't, you can go back to your multitasking ways with our blessing. But folks, you can't say you don't need help in these areas or, oh, this will never work for me, and then simultaneously not try it because you're not even attempting.
Right. You've literally decided I've stopped learning. And as I've said before, you don't stop learning when you get old. You get old when you stop learning. In fact, this is one of those casts that was a little bit prescient for us. We got some email about it years ago. This cast came out in 2012, and it is Hall of Fame. And we get a lot of emails about it, both, I think you're wrong, and then a lot of, oh my gosh, you're right. But I think a year or two later, late 2013, early 2014, the Wall Street Journal did an article about how multitasking is bad. It's a scourge. And they told stories of people. One person was trying to plan a trip to Cancun for his family, and at the same time trying to do a contract with somebody, and he was switching back and forth between emails as he got updates from the travel agents or whatever. And then what did he do? He sent an email about the Cancun itinerary, I think, to the company he was negotiating the contract with. And they're like, what's this? I'm sorry, did you mean to send us that? Now, you might say, oh, look, if you have a good relationship, they're going to forgive you. Oh, I understand you're multitasking, so on. Yes. But on the other hand, if you don't have a good relationship with those people, they're going to think, how focused is this guy? How, what is he doing? He's not paying attention. This is a contract negotiation. We should be focused. We should be intensive about this. So.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. So today's outline, 7 parts in length. We're going to start by talking about do one thing at a time. Create blocks of time on your calendar to concentrate. Turn off everything that rings, flashes, or otherwise notifies you. Close everything except the thing that you're working on. Attend to your biological needs. Don't fall down the rabbit hole of other thoughts. And stop when your calendar tells you to.
Yeah, and I will tell you that whole flashing, otherwise notifications thing is I'm astounded when I go to corporate offices for clients, And I'm amazed at the stuff that people have. Their computer screen is like a fireworks display. It's constantly binging and chatting and texting and, and the team scroll or Slack is just constantly just rolling and rolling and rolling, so on. Yeah. All right. So let's start. Do one thing at a time. The actual answer to productivity is single tasking, not multitasking. If you're working on your budget, work on your budget. Okay. And you're going to have a moment where you're kind of not wanting to work on your budget, even though you got a deadline in a couple of days, but you have enough time and you could put it off a little bit longer. And so you go check mail, right? If you're in a meeting, in person or virtual, please be in the meeting. We give trainings to people who their boss sent them to a training and they're no video, no audio. And then you read stories in the Wall Street Journal about people saying, yeah, I was doing Netflix. Like, wow, that's a hard move, bold move. If you're doing email, do email. It's very straightforward.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And folks, part of the reason we make this recommendation is doing one thing at a time allows you to build up momentum. I mean, Mark, you write these podcasts, and I'm sure that you can see the amazing difference between page 1, just a little slow while you're kind of building up your
Building
speed.
the whole concept.
Mm-hmm, exactly. But then by the time the second page and then the third page and then the fourth page come, I mean, they're flying
it's
off your fingers.
It's all in my head. It's going. Yeah, it's no problem. Sometimes I'll tell you I have 45 minutes and suddenly I'm done in 15 or 20.
Yeah.
Because I'm in it. I'm fully in it. But if I take a break right in those show notes, which are fairly intensive, I have to keep all the thoughts in my head. We have 20 years of casts. Somebody told me I've written nearly 2 million words in the last 20 years, and we have never contradicted ourselves, not one single time. And it's because all I do during that time, and I follow our own guidance. I turn off mail, I turn off text messages, all that kind of stuff. The problem is if you take a break and come back, you're starting over with page 1. You're doing page 2 like page 1 and page 3 like page 1. And you end up with a jumble. If you only take one thing from this cast, folks, please get into your head the fundamental productivity killer app, which is doing one thing at a time. Now, we know that some of you maybe not going to buy our guidance, so we have more on how to get there.
Absolutely. And one of those ways to get there is by creating blocks of time on your calendar to concentrate. Folks, we've said this before. We will say it again. If your priorities are not on your calendar, like in blocks of an hour or 2 hours, you're never going to spend time, the time needed, associated with concentrating, with thinking through those things you need to do. Your calendar must say, for the next hour, work on strategic improvement of our procurement process, for example.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to do email, you're going to pick up the phone, you're going to grab a coffee, you're going to do all those other little things that we as human beings do to distract ourselves and to procrastinate. And going back to the example of writing show notes, not push through page 1.
Yes, that's great. I like the theme we've got here, pushing through page 1. I will tell you that if you step away to do email or get a cup of coffee, you feel a sense of accomplishment. And your brain actually, as a professional, craves that sense of accomplishment. Now, it's a D level accomplishment as opposed to an A level accomplishment, but you still feel it. You get a little bit of endorphins in your head. Like, hey, I got my cup of coffee. Hey, I'm liking my coffee. Hey, I did some email. I kept email from getting crazy out of hand for being unavailable for 2 hours. Also, I just want to be clear in case you guys didn't get it. A lot of you believe that what goes on your calendar is meetings. Yes, meetings do go on your calendar, but that's a very narrow and inefficient and amateurish way to see your calendar. Your calendar is the place where you capture priorities. So this hour or 90 minutes, or in some cases 2 hours, if you can eke it out, is actually on your calendar for you to focus on a task. In fact, I have a Mark work calendar, a Mark email calendar, a Mark personal calendar, and a Mark tasks calendar, and they're all different. Now, nobody else subscribes to my task calendar at Manager Tools, so I think maybe you do and Mike does, but nobody else does because this is for me, and it's a time that I have for that. Now, the beauty of having it on my calendar is that if I don't get that task done, something else comes up, something's urgent, or I really want to do email because I don't want to do that task, I still have a record of that task in my calendar and I can move it to later in the day or the next day. And look, just having on your calendar is not the end all and be all, but it's a start, as Sarah said. Just having on your calendar won't make you concentrate necessarily, but not having on your calendar and try to fit it in around all that other stuff means you're going from page one to page one to page one to page one because you're not building up. I can't remember the name of it, Sarah, but there's an actual period where if you take a break, you have to reconnect with the logic in your head. You have to pull down that part of your chip brain into your head again. And I think we read somewhere that's like 40% of the time when you're switching tasks, because you're not multitasking, you're just super fast task switching. You lose 40% of the time the second time you come back to a task, loading that stuff back into short-term memory.
Yeah. And Mark, I just want to go back to what you were saying a minute ago. I don't want us to lose the value of calendar soup. Folks, a podcast that has come out since this podcast was originally released. It's called Calendar Soup. Essentially, this idea that all of those items in the task calendar kind of can move around, right? If something comes up, you don't get to that chunk of time to review your procurement process, for example, it can slide around. We will make sure that we link to the Calendar Soup podcast.
Good. Yeah. Good.
In this podcast as well, in the show notes. All right. So notice here, we didn't mandate a specific or a distinct block of time. Concentration is an effort by your brain, and like every muscle, you can't expect to lift weights immediately. So if you never put aside time for anything and you constantly work in 5-minute bursts, 2 hours as your first concentration block is going to be way too much time. It's going to leave you burnt out immediately. You're going to find it'll be a real struggle for you to stay in it for a full 2 hours. So you want to work your way up to those larger chunks of time by starting with, for example, 30 minutes. And when 30 minutes starts to feel too short, then go another week at 30 minutes and then move to 45 minutes or to an hour. And we want you to work up to these blocks of 90 minutes or 2 hours. Now, we will also say any longer than 2 hours, you're probably unlikely to be as effective as you think you are. 2 hours is kind of the space where we recommend you take a break. You kind of clear the cache a little bit.
Also, if you put 3 hours on your calendar, people are going to see that as a blocked thing, and they're going to start, instead of sending you a calendar request that you could say no to, then you end up having to defend yourself. They're going to call you and say, there's no other time today, but this half hour you have blocked out on your calendar.
A lot of time for a professional to block out. You're absolutely right. You're listening to this podcast because you're serious about your career. You want to grow, you want to advance, and you're willing to put in the work to get there. But here's the thing. Listening is only half the battle. The real value is in what you do about what you hear. Career Tools licensees never have to worry about losing a key insight or missing an action, because every time we release a new episode, the full show notes land directly in their inbox, ready to read, reference, and act whenever they need them. If you're serious about your career, become a Career Tools licensee. It's one of the smartest investments you can make. Visit us online today at manager-tools.com/memberships to learn more.
All right, next item. This is my pet peeve. Turn off everything that rings, flashes, or otherwise notifies you. And that includes your phone, includes your iPad or your Surface tablet. And certainly if you've got your laptop running and a desktop computer, you got to turn them off on all of it. And let's go a step further. If you have a desk phone, and not as many people do as they used to, but some of us still do, send your desk phone straight to voicemail, okay? If your boss or somebody else needs you that urgently, they will send a coworker to your desk to get you. And I think if you'll try this, you'll discover there's just not that much urgent. We make things urgent by slicing our time up in increasingly smaller slices, but people will be like, no, he's busy and it's fine. I've gotten emails from people when I went on a plane and I didn't have Wi-Fi. And by the time I landed, I had 2 emails from them. One saying, I really need to talk to you. It's important. And then 2 hours later when I landed, why haven't you gotten back to me? Well, for one, Dumbo, it's email, and email is not urgent. And 2, if it was really urgent, I assume you would have called me. Then one person said, but I don't have your cell phone. I said, you know what? If you don't have somebody's cell phone number, that's probably an indication that you don't get to task them with urgent responsibilities.
Nothing you've got for that person is urgent, dude. That's why you don't have their number.
Yes.
Okay, so that's an example of phone, right? Your desk phone. But also, folks, turn off your mobile phone. Not on vibrate, not on silent and turned over so that you can't see the screen. Because what's going to happen is if your brain wanders for a moment, you're going to want to quickly peek at your phone. You're going to want to just turn it over quickly. And the moment you turn it over, you're going to see all of those notifications. So completely off, making it as difficult as possible to just quickly check and make sure nothing urgent has come in.
Quickly check. Nothing urgent. Got to do it, right? And then you're slicing your time up again.
That's it. You'll see a thing. It'll distract you. It will be urgent-ish, albeit not as urgent as the concentration you should be having right now. And here we go. Time lost.
Yeah. If you happen to be in a job where you're responsible for something that is time critical, like you're in an on-call role, then block these times around those times when you're on call, so that you're protecting the ability to jump to something that you get an alert or something in an internal system. If you're responsible for plant safety and it's your job to be present when there's an accident, at least when you're on shift, obviously, then you can't turn your phone off as we recommend. Often in these roles, though, there's an on-call phone and an everything else phone. So turn off the everything else phone. If the on-call phone rings, and probably nowadays is a cell, you do need to break your concentration. If you don't have two phones, suggest that you get one for that on-call priority that could happen.
That's absolutely it. And folks, turn off your email. If you insist that your email must be on because of the urgent messages that you're going to receive from your boss that you just have to take care of because that's the expectation at our company, you are part of the problem at your company. You are one of the people who is setting the precedent that emails are always answered within 10 minutes.
Or 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Or your inability, your unwillingness to turn your phone or your email off for 2 hours is what continues to feed that monstrous system, making everyone else think that it's that urgent. Email ought to be that urgent. So
yeah,
start setting a new precedent. If it's really, really urgent, they're gonna come find you or they're gonna phone you. And we're not suggesting that you have your email off all day, every day. Although we do recommend you only check your email 3 times a day. But for your sanity, we're going to get there slowly. That's an entirely different podcast. What's it called, Mark? Got email?
Got email.
Got email?
Got milk. Yeah.
Like got milk. Yeah, exactly. So that's another podcast. We won't talk about it here, but we do recommend you do it less often than you're thinking you should. But nonetheless, turning it off for 2 hours a day so you have 2 hours of concentration is just not unreasonable, folks. It's just not.
Yeah, I have a funny story to relate about email. Email came into the workplace when us baby boomers were already in the workplace. I had a long career in the Army at Procter & Gamble and in my previous company before email came in I guess 1995, 1996, right around then. Okay, well, what happens is people now say to me, oh, you're a boomer, you use email. I don't use email. I use TikTok or I use text messages or WhatsApp or so on. It's such an old thing. And yet those young people have learned all the bad habits of email. These are people who say, oh, no, you don't, I don't send emails anymore. But at work, they're camping on email. I've watched them do it. I mean, I'm talking to a client who's paying me to be there. And you could see their eyes glaze over when their phone buzzes and they know it's email and they go and they just quickly check. Right? Yeah. And now, of course, and if I'm in a bad mood, I'll just walk away. Maybe not if it's a chief executive, but if I'm talking to a frontline manager who's reports to somebody who I'm working for, just be like, why don't you come talk to me when you're able to talk to me? We had time to talk. And now you're saying email, which you routinely say is an old person's thing. Now you're checking your email constantly. Also, turn off your instant messages. And by the way, when we say turn it off, turn off the app, okay? On an iPhone, you would open up the app and you'd close that app. You'd swipe up, right? On your computer, you would literally shut down what is called your email client. If you use Outlook, if you use Gmail, if you use Google Mail on the web, whatever, turn off Outlook. Turn off the web browser that you use to get email on. You're still getting email. It's still getting to the server. And if you don't see it come in, you can wait an hour until you're done with whatever task you're working on. And so instant message is the same way. Slack is the same way. Don't put it on do not disturb. Turn it off. If you find yourself multitasking a lot, and by the way, if you're stressed out and frazzled at the end of the day, it's probably because you have too much to do, which everyone does, but you are trying to solve the problem by spinning plates. And by the end of the day, you have so many that they come crashing down. And the bad part about that is you go home to your family right after all the plates have crashed down because you've been busy trying to spin 20 plates with a bunch of massive, not multitasking, but task switching, task after task after task after task, and you're going to be ineffective. And if these programs are running, you're going to be tempted, like Sarah said earlier, to take a peek. Something else will get in the way of your work you're doing, and you will lose the ability to think deeply and clearly about a particular topic. And by the way, your answer or your output from that will be less effective. It'll be more amateurish. It'll be less professional.
Yeah, it's like surface level thinking, right? It's how deeply can you get into a topic? And we talk a lot about communication styles and the different profiles. I find that the high Cs are the best at this activity of not multitasking. They do what I call fall down a well, right? And that's essentially what we're recommending all of you, even those who haven't done this or have little practice or aren't maybe naturally prone to this, do, is kind of this fall down a well for a couple of hours to get just to milk every last drop out of your concentration efforts.
But when you say a couple hours, remember, folks, don't jump to 2 hours right away.
Yes, exactly.
Start at 30 minutes, then go to an hour, then go to 90 minutes. And about between 90 minutes and 2 hours is when you're going to have trouble getting whole blocks of time. Although, as we've said before, if you really want to get a handle on things, just look out 4 or 5 weeks in your calendar. There's nothing on it. And you could start putting blocks of time for the tasks you need to get done, and you could have focused time.
Absolutely.
So close everything except what you're working on. If you're working on a spreadsheet, close Word, close your browser. Close Adobe, close PowerPoint, close email, all those clients, all those applications, all those apps, close them, okay? Everything that is not Excel, if you're working on a spreadsheet, is closed.
Mm-hmm. And folks, there are multiple good reasons for that. One, your computer's going to run more quickly without all of these random windows being opened and doing their thing. Two, you're not going to get any pop-ups or reminders from those programs that might exist and you've forgotten to turn off. I mean, how many places can you go to turn off all the reminders? You might as well just close the window faster, easier. And then three, you're not going to be distracted when you hit the wrong button and you catch a glimpse of your email or something that you were working on earlier, or a window that was actually behind your spreadsheet, but it's now in front of your spreadsheet. And folks, there's also an argument to be made here for having your desktop clear of icons, because your desktop, if littered with icons, is itself going to be a distraction. Because I mean, just some desktops we see have so many icons. It's just...
Oh, I'm amazed. Like 100.
Yeah.
I have 4. 2 of them are standard, one of which is the trash from the Mac trash. And I have a pirate flag signifying our file transfer folder. And right now, because I'm working on our next effective executive conference coming up in September of 2026, September 2nd and 3rd, I have 2 folders, one red, one purple, where all the other folders on my computer are all blue. But these 2 I have to spend time with virtually every day. And that's it. I have 4 things on my desktop. And I look at some other people's desktops and they have 40 or 50 or 60 or 100 folders on a laptop screen. I'm like, how do you find it? I asked Mike, Mike Ozana, my business partner, one of the co-owners here, you have all these folders. How do you find them? He says, I use Find.
I use Find. Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, if you use Find, you can put them all in one place and make it your call it your shadow desktop, put it there, and that way your desktop is clear. Next, You want to attend to your biological needs. Okay. So if you need to get a fresh cup of coffee, because you're mostly done with yours, get it before your concentration time period starts.
Yep.
Make sure you're warm or cold enough. Check on that for a minute. Now, don't spend the first 15 minutes of your half hour making sure everything is just so, but try to get this stuff done and out of the way. And then say, again, to Sarah's point, I'm going to fall down a well. Make sure you're not hungry. Cycle through in your mind all the things you need to be comfortable. If you make this a ritual before you start any piece of work, you'll be readying your mind to concentrate. Your mind will say, aha, we're getting ready to do deep work, as Cal Newport, I think, would say. And that will help you in the concentration process.
Mm-hmm. And folks, this additional effort ensures you won't need to get up in the middle of your concentration period either. I mean, if you've gone to the restroom immediately in advance, you probably won't need to go to the restroom again in the next 2 hours, potentially, depending how much coffee you've had today. So there's that. Again, the more often you're pulled back out of that concentration, the more you have to get back into it again. And one final note. Again, Mark mentioned this, but don't drag out the ritual, because that in itself can be procrastination. Like a 10-minute ritual is too much, like 2-3 minutes, like just kind of like make sure all the boxes are checked. And I mean, if you're a person that would benefit from it, make yourself a little checklist so that when you do this, you just run your playbook and you can do your concentration.
Yeah. One of my favorite phrases du jour lately, I saw it on social media, probably Instagram, and I loved it. And have seen many people repost it and so on. And it says, the magic you are seeking is in the work you're avoiding. And I don't know about you guys, but when I procrastinate, when I do, and then I actually start a task and it only takes me half an hour, even though I thought it was a big 90-minute or something. I'm like, why did I do that? Why did I put this off? Just get it done. I don't know about you guys, but I hate having what are known as open loops. I asked that guy, so I got to check on it. I don't have it written down anywhere, so it's in my head all the time. And then when I finally take myself to task, and say, I'm going to start doing this. I'm like, wait, I've been dreading this for 2 weeks and it took me half an hour. What a waste of the brain cells for 2 weeks.
Just of the stress that's associated with these things that'll lurk around just waiting to be done that you think are a big deal, which in hindsight, when you do them, aren't.
Yeah. Okay. Next item. Don't fall down the rabbit hole of other thoughts. Okay. And this is the hardest part of single tasking. Okay. You've managed 5 minutes of concentrating on your spreadsheet, and then a thought comes into your head, as they do. I must ask Bob. I forgot. I must ask Bob about the production schedule. Mm-hmm. Right? Totally legit. Totally legit. An actual deliverable, an actual task, a responsibility you've got. And you just saw the word production in the document you're reviewing. And so you're thinking, oh my God, Bob, the production schedule.
Mm-hmm. Now, normally multitasking behavior would be to call Bob while you're continuing to work on your spreadsheet, or to open a new email, dash off a one-liner, and go back to your spreadsheet. This occurs, though, obviously after your concentration has already been broken because you picked up the phone or you sent that email. And going back to what Mark said, scientists tell us it takes 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's the number I didn't have in my head. That's a big number. That's a scary number, actually. That means if you're multitasking, you're never going to get a full hour.
That's exactly it.
Right? You're just going to get back to page 1 after 45 minutes. So here's the thing. Instead, here's the solution. It's super easy. People have been using it since the beginning of writing utensils on paper or papyrus. Keep a small piece of paper beside you. I have note paper here. Usually I pick up note paper at hotels I go to because it's free and it reminds me of good hotels I've stayed at. And you quickly write on the note, Bob, production schedule, and then go straight back to your spreadsheet. Okay. The quicker you do this, the more you minimize that interruption, the less the break in your concentration, and the more quickly you can be productive again on the thing you committed to be productive upon.
Mm-hmm. Because, folks, part of the problem with this falling down the rabbit hole of other thoughts, while you might think to yourself, it takes the same amount of time, theoretically, to jot down a note, production schedule Bob, as it does to open up an email and shoot off an email to Bob. The problem is, the moment you open up your email, you now see your inbox. So
There you
you're not
go.
just shooting off a
I
note to
didn't make
Bob.
that connection.
You're seeing another message from another person, your mail from your boss. So now,
So I got 2 or 3 things I could
exactly.
just dash off real quick.
Right. Whereas a piece of paper and a pen don't distract. There's nothing else to be found here, folks. That's all that exists. So that's kind of the idea. Or when you pick up the phone to phone Bob, he asks you about 2 or 3 other things that he wanted to talk to you about.
And by the way, are we going bowling?
That's the problem. Yeah, exactly. So the paper and the pen force you to not fall down that rabbit hole of other things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good one. Yeah.
And then, folks, the last part of the guidance is stop when your calendar tells you to. No matter how good you are, you can no more concentrate for 8 hours at a time than you can multitask. Your ability falls probably somewhere in the middle. Now, there's no need to turn your single tasking, especially if you're new to this, into a marathon. Again, 2 hours.
A marathon of 1 minute sprints.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. 2 hours is plenty long enough for anybody. Get up, stretch, check your messages and your emails. And if you're feeling good and your calendar has time for it, jump into a new 2-hour stretch in the afternoon. But just saying to yourself, oh, I've been at this for 2 hours, I'm still clear, and just keeping going is stretching the confines of your brain's ability to stay in that deep work space. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'll tell you something else too. You're going to get distracted because you've built your brain the idea that I'm going to work in 2-minute bites or 3-minute bites or whatever. We didn't really say it, but not only does turning off all the other apps, the ones you're not working on, I think the example we used was Excel, right? You turn off everything else. You start to do it, and then you have to choose to open Excel, you have to choose to open mail and then take a look at mail. So that action, you feel guilty about it, and then you're going to look at it. You'll get better and better at realizing the idea is you have to take a positive action, an affirmative action in order to open mail, as opposed to just glancing at mail when it's there, right there, and it's constantly scrolling because we're getting so many more mails. That is, I have found, has been incredibly helpful to me. I have the biggest amount of screen real estate anybody has. I run a Mac Pro here at the house with 3 Apple XDR monitors. They're massive. And it is amazing the difference when I turn everything off. Now, I've never had any reminders or alerts on my computer, which most people think is crazy, but that also helps me. Those 2 things help me enormously. Yeah. Okay. So can I start a summary?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, folks, multitasking feels productive, but it's mostly an illusion, okay? Switching between tasks rapidly fragments your attention and leaves everything half done and actually compromises the quality of your work. The human brain simply isn't built to do 2 things at once, unless one is trivial, like walking and chewing gum. Okay, fine, you can do that. But that's not work, okay? Work is different. It requires a much higher proportion of your brain to be focused, right? What looks like efficiency is really just a series of small interruptions. And while you may handle that interruption and that feels good, so you feel good, but your brain doesn't know you're feeling good about that versus the Excel thing. And you end up with an hour later not having gotten anywhere. And the overall feeling you get is not all those small endorphin hits for those little bit of excursions you took, those little tangents you went on. You end up feeling bad overall about the thing you didn't get to. The real secret to getting things done is ruthlessly protecting your focus. Okay. And that starts with time, as Sarah said. Guard your time, guard your environment, and you'll start to be able to guard your mind. And when you do that, you can give your important task the full attention of that incredibly powerful and wonderful, gorgeous brain that you have.
And all those things, folks, mean being intentional about how you work. Structure your day around dedicated blocks of concentration. And when one begins, treat it as sacred. Silence the notifications, close your clutter, take care of yourself physically so your body isn't competing with your brain for attention. And then when your mind starts to wander, and it will, bring it back to what you're focusing on. The goal here was never to do more. It was always to do what matters and do that thing well.
Yeah. Ooh, good ending. That's motivational to me. Don't do more. Do the things that matter well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And in fact, you'll get more done. And I know, again, it doesn't feel like it, folks. I know some of you still don't believe us. But please, just do these things for a week. Just for a week. And see what happens.
And send us a mail and tell us about your experience.
Yeah, exactly. We're at customer service at manager-tools.com. Thank you so much for joining us, folks. We hope this helped you. Now, help us, help others, and tell your friends. And of course, follow, rate, and review our podcast. And remember, 5 stars only, please.
5 stars only, please.